Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Agents of S.h.i.e.L.D. So in this episode, the main plot thing was getting Gravitonium, because they needed to close the rift because the rift is opening slowly up again, so... I mean, they get like a little bit this episode, but it's probably not enough to permanently close a rift. So I do appreciate that not just being like a one-off thing, because even like I said, I brought it up last episode, like Fitz was like, yeah, it's only a temporary fix, and even this will probably only be a temporary fix because there's only a small amount of Gravitonium. The rest was taken by General Hell, which begs the question, what does she need Gravitonium for? What that's all about? So... also meeting up with one of Mac's old buddies, Tony. They call him Candyman. We learn a little bit more about Mac. Apparently, they call him Mac Hammer because he was like super obsessed with MC Hammer back in the day. And I even appreciate when he's about to grab the Gravitonium and he's like, Mac. And then Coulson's like, Mac, can't touch this. And he's just like, I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It's like, really? He's literally about to grab the one thing that's keeping this ship afloat in the air, which is pretty cool. And you're really making jokes like that now. It's just like, I gotta appreciate the small moments in life, right, Coulson? Well, speaking of Coulson, we do, like, even this whole situation with these doctors that they're meeting up, they're trying to track down about this whole Gravitonium situation. Was it Cyberlock? Everything associated with them. Like, Daisy on some level is hoping that maybe there'll be something... Because they want to look into the Deathlock program, because if they can look into it, maybe they can find a way to save Coulson, which Coulson's like, no, I literally already told you before, I don't want another artificial life. I already went through that, and that was kind of hard enough. Maybe this situation would be different in its own right, because it's like, well, that time it's like it was kept from him the fact that he was getting another life. It's like, well, this life, it could be like, no. You this time you'd be knowing. Not unless the team found some way to wipe your memory to make you forget that you were ever, sick and dying again. But Coulson, he's accepted his death. It's just kind of like, I don't want to be, because I'm sure Coulson's just kind of scared of what it could turn him into. Like, if he keeps coming back from the dead eventually, like what that would do to his mind. He might, it might even eat away at his soul. Like, you even have Matt kind of being like, oh yeah, the reason why he hates robots because they don't have hearts and souls. Like, well, who's to say, like, keep coming back from the dead, like, maybe that aspect of you, like, that human side of you, that good natured side of you, who's to say that won't get withered away soon? Because to be fair, it's like, even, like, Coulson's like, everyone dies eventually, So, but they're trying so hard to, like, not let him go. It's like, he wants to be the shield and everything, then we'll be his shield to keep him alive. So, can remember what Future Yo-Yo said that, because that's still a thing in this. It's like saving Coulson is kind of where things kind of went wrong. And, it hits Yo-Yo hard this episode too, because like not only does she not have her arms, now because her losing her arms is kind of the right step in that direction of like, that future is getting that much closer, to kind of happening. So it's just kind of freaking her out, because she's like, I want to be with Mac, I want to have a family, but she's just like, because she knows what happens to Mac, like Mac dies at some point in the future. So it's just like, it's sad knowing what like, because that's the situation of like, how do you know like what steps you need to take to make sure that future doesn't happen? Like, is it set in stone? Like, Yo-Yo is kind of beaten down and scared, so obviously she's like, it can't be changed, but can it? I mean, because it seems like no matter what they did, like, it seems like they're constantly stuck in this loop of like, no matter what, things always end up that way in that future. Is there any way to change it? Maybe there are changes to this particular timeline that we don't know about. Take Deacon being here, for example. Maybe that's a huge difference between, maybe each time, like, certain things have changed slightly, and all those slight things will kind of eventually build up. It's kind of like the whole situation with the magicians. And you just got to find the right things to move to get the dominoes, like, falling in a different direction, So, if you're unfamiliar with the magicians, then that's an example that would kind of go over your head, so it's not really worth thinking about. But it's just a situation of like, loops are involved, and it's like, all you got to do is move things in the right direction, and these small changes, you never know what kind of big effects they could have. Like I said, Deacon being here, for example, so, which he plays a part in this episode. It was kind of interesting because we got to see his mom, like, she was a part of. I think it's kind of interesting too, because those visions don't always seem hurtful, like obviously the fear visions. It turns out like, well, I mean, it played into the fact is because he saw a Kree come up and kill his mom, so there's that. But like, his mom wasn't hostile, kind of like the whole like Mike situation last episode, I mean, to be fair, it was like messing with his head a little bit, and then it got violent, trying to pull him in. But that's about it. But his mom didn't act violent, so like I said, again, I get the feeling like it was all set up, playing into the same like fear and everything. But she says something that kind of makes she's like, oh, I heard this one saying from my mom, like, you don't have to take big steps, you just got to make sure you're taking steps in the right direction. Which Deacon hears it later on, and he's kind of like, he hears Simmons say it, he's like, oh shit, my mom heard it from her mom. It's like, oh shit, no way. It's like, he figures it out. Because there's even one moment, I thought Simmons might have noticed it, because you kind of see her looking at it, but maybe she doesn't think about it too much. There's a moment where Fitz has kind of got his hands on his hips. At the same time, Deacon made the same mannerism. And like I said, it looked like she was kind of looking at direction, kind of like, okay, whatever. Maybe she just thought, oh, that's kind of weird that they decided to do that. But now you even see it in the episode. He can't even look at Simmons the same way, or Fitz, because he's just kind of like, he's like, are you coming on, Deacon? He's like, yeah, sure thing, Grandpa. Kind of whispering under his voice. It's like, it's super weird, because I wasn't really expecting him to find out so soon, but that's pretty neat. Because obviously he had his problems with Fitz, and in particular, because it's like, oh, Fitz treats me like I'm an idiot. I even love that moment. If he's just like, oh yeah, you need to take time away from trying to figure this whole situation out. He's like, oh, let's play some catch or something. He's like, okay, you want to play some catch, which is just funny to me, because it's like, that's a father-son situation. I mean, I guess in this particular station, grandson and grandfather, but still, it was just kind of funny that they threw that in there. Like, I guess that was the whole point, to kind of allude to that. Like, see what we're doing here. But still, I'm very interested to see what Deacon does about it. He might not say anything to any of them about this. He might just kind of keep it to himself. I did even appreciate that his mom being like, oh yeah, that Daisy girl's pretty cute. He's like, no, she's not. It's like, I was like, I thought so. Like, I felt like there was something there. Like, Daisy hasn't dated anyone in a long time. The last relationship Daisy was in was with, Lincoln. That was the last relationship she was in. So, I mean, I don't really count the whole like framework situation where she kind of had to play the framework Daisy while, being close to Ward. I don't really count that. So, like, the last relationship she was in was Lincoln. So, I mean, to be fair, she probably is not looking for a love life right now, considering like the state of everything. Not only is her friend, mentor / father Coulson is dying, plus they got to try and save the world, plus she's potentially the one who's going to end the world, which in that same vein is kind of like crazy to think about, like if her and Deacon did get together, especially kind of like not really liking each other type of thing, kind of having their back and forth, and he kind of blames her for a lot of things being the way it'd just be interesting. But that did kind of cement something I was already thinking, like, oh, does Deacon kind of a thing for Daisy? Seemed like it was the case, but we'll just have to wait and see. I'm also curious about those robots of Hells. Like, it seems like they are just robots. They're not LMDs or something. Like I said, it seems like all those LMD things died with Radcliffe. Like, all of that is gone now, along with Ada, So, and that's a big question we still get in this episode, too. Is like, what is it that they're up to? Like, General Hale, like, because basically we meet Alex, who, I won't lie to you, I completely blanked on who Alex was. He hasn't been in the show for a long time, has he? Like, I didn't remember. Like, obviously he's connected to Hydra and stuff like that, but I don't even remember his dad. It's been so long. And they're just like, oh yeah, like all the stuff that's in his head, like he remembers things, like basically the way his brain works now, he remembers every word spoken. So a lot of his dad's research and thoughts, it's like that's what Hale is after. Because, like, Hell is like, oh, we're not with Hydra. But it seems like what she's aiming for is, like, she's like Hydra, but Hydra adjacent. Because it's like, oh, we're a different branch of Hydra kind of doing our own thing. Like, the original Hydra is like, your father led them down, kind of went off the rails, kind of led Hydra down the road path. Me, I'm going to kind of take what was there and going to lead it down a new path. It's like, huh. I mean, that was always a thing, that Hydra was never completely dead. When was it that they apparently killed all of Hydra? Wasn't it last season that they quote unquote finish off the rest of Hydra? I guess that's no longer a thing. I guess whoever, like all members of Hydra that were left kind of went. I mean, because obviously there's a lot of Hydra that was, that's a big part of Hydra being deep cover and everywhere. Obviously, General Hale having a military position and stuff like that. She's been covert this entire time. So probably slowly building everything up, waiting for the tainted line of Hydra to be taken care of, so now she can rise to the occasion. I mean, because let's not forget, like, the whole framework situation is like, well, that was fake Hydra. This is potentially real Hydra again. Like I said, she seems like she tries to differentiate herself and her group from Hydra. Like, I don't know what the ultimate goal is, trying to create a perfect world. I assume kind of something similar to Hydra. But they need what's in Alex's head to do it. And so she's basically using her daughter to seduce Alex. And so it seems like that is the case. She kind of talks about the fact is that basically everything her mom is building right now, this whole group, all her ambitions and stuff like that. It's like we're going to like take that from her, and she won't even see it coming. We're going to take this team that she's essentially building, and we're going to take it for our own. So it's kind of like, which obviously Alex kind of goes along with it, but she even tells her mom later on, is like, "Oh, how did you convince him to say?" I told him the truth, which is like, well, because that even took me by surprise. Is this supposed to be like a deep layer mind game? Because it's like, oh, you tell him the truth about what you're doing, and you know, by you being so honest, he'll be willing to side with you. Or is she doing a double play here, where it's like she's playing her mom? Is it like, oh, she's really truthful to what she wants to do with Alex, and she really does want to take down her mom? I don't know. Like Ruby's, like it seemed like she could easily go either way on that situation. So I am curious to find out like what that's all about. Because now that knowing that they're potentially Hydra, it kind of makes more sense. Like what they're doing, it's like I guess even that whole like monolith thing was more of a planned thing. Because I was wondering, I was like, there's no way they could have planned for something like that. It's like no. I mean, how would you know exactly that they would take it there? I guess they must have a lot of info over where they're at, because it's like, how would, I mean, do they really, like, is it a happy coincidence that that happened? So is it going to be a situation of like, oh, they tried to do this, but they ended up causing more problems than, like, it's like, oh, we're trying to do our thing, but not realizing we caused an even bigger problem with the rift? Or what's a rift thing supposed to happen? Because it seems like, oh, it's like, oh, the beacon's supposed to do what it's supposed to do. And like, I can only assume it was that. So I guess it feeds into their plan in some shape or form. Granted, they still don't know about the future and stuff like that, which I'm curious, like, would any of their ideals and plans change if they knew, like, oh, like, the world is going to end soon, and then, like, in, like, 75 years, the last of humanity is going to be enslaved. Well, over the course of the next 75 years, we'll be leading up to humanity being completely and utterly enslaved by the Kree. So, is that a situation that they'd be willing to kind of change their mind about? It is hard to say where this whole situation go, because it seems like at this time we still kind of know next to nothing, you know. So I wonder what it is exactly that they're trying to get out of, you know, Alex's dad. I mean, Alex's head. Obviously, all the stuff that his dad knew and stuff like that. So once again, don't really remember his dad and what role his dad played. I mean, obviously he's some like top level Hydra scientist. Along with this all, I'm also curious, are we going to get to see any more of Tony, Jake Busey's character? Because he was saying that he was going to look into the Deathlot program. There's a part of me that's kind of wondering, and I guess it's just because, like, a lot of times Jake Busey kind of plays, like, suspicious characters in TV shows, like, don't know if you want to trust him 100%. I want to say the last thing I saw him in was maybe From Dusk Till Dawn, the TV show, and doesn't have the most trustworthy character in that, so I think that's why I kind of associate that. So I just got this inkling. I'm like, with all the people that kind of betray you, especially kind of people related to S.h.i.e.L.D., kind of makes me a little wonder about that, you know. So I'm wondering, did he lie about the Deathlot program? Because he is talking about he is going to look into it, which obviously, once again, that's going back to the whole like trying to get the Deathlot program for Phil. So. And it's kind of interesting thing, really kind of going really quickly back to the whole Ruby thing. It's interesting how she makes the compare. I guess it's because they're opposite sides of the spectrum, is S.h.i.e.L.D. and Hydra. And I guess that makes sense why Hell wants to take down S.h.i.e.L.D. so much, is because it's like, oh yeah, the painting is enemy numero uno. And it's like, oh yeah, that kind of works out for us because, you know, I guess because like we're going, I don't know, like I guess they are opposite sides of the spectrum. It's like, oh yeah, Hydra has its ideas of how things should work, and S.h.i.e.L.D. has its ideas, and it's like, oh, we're going to birth something new in between. It's kind of what this whole deal is with General Hell and Ruby. Like I said, whether or not that's just ultimately going to be all of Ruby's that she ends up taking command of, or whether it is just General Hell. And it's kind of interesting because being as skilled as you are, I mean, I guess it's one of those situations. No matter how messed up she is, she's still your mom. You only get one. So I guess it's one of those situations. I was about to say, what did I pull that from? It's like, oh, Jessica Jones. That was kind of, I was wondering, I was like, I was thinking like, oh, that had to be something else superhero related. It's like, it is, but it kind of fits, you know, Marvel and Marvel. So that kind of all works. So it's an okay reference for me to pull from, because it's like, oh yeah, it's part of the MCU I'm pulling from. So it's okay. But, like, as skilled as she is, why did she just take her down, you know? So I guess that's the only reason why, even though it seems like she really hates your mom. But, you know, once again, hate or no hate, that's still your mom. So I'm curious to find out, is there more to her than just being a skilled assassin? Like, is she one of those things too? Is she like a robot like the others and she's just being treated special or what? She kind of talks about the fact that she doesn't know her dad. I would assume that might play some role in the plot. Just might be some information about like, oh yeah, you kind of have a messed up family. I have a messed up family too. Like her and Alex can bond over that, so. Also appreciate the fact is Mac got Yo-Yo some arms. And it's kind of an interesting conversation along the same lines. It's like, oh yeah, like, Coulson's like, yo, you could get one too. They're gonna be pretty awesome. It's actually better. It's like, but Yo-Yo goes, can you feel? And he goes, no, to be honest, he's like, you don't. Which is like, huh. I don't think Coulson's ever really talked about that. He's had those arms this is the third season he's had that, not arms, that arm. He's had that arm since the end of season 2, and I don't think that's ever come up in conversation about like how having that arm, like you can't feel anything, which is like, hey, at least Coulson has one other arm, like Yo-Yo doesn't have anything, so meaning both her arms are going to be prosthetic. Yeah, no matter how awesome they are, it might bring her some normalcy, but like when she wants to hold Mac or any potential future children they have, she'll never be able to fill them with her arms, So, but at the very least, at the end of the episode, she is a lot more lighthearted. She's even making jokes. She's like, "Oh, you got me stumped," and Mac's like, "Really? We're making jokes like that now." So, I'm very interested to see her kind of get her, kind of be back on her feet, kind of, with everything the way it is now, going to need everyone coming together to figure this whole situation out, whatever it is hell's got up her sleeves. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.